Hello my friends and welcome to my new video. Let's talk about the new patch, new quote unquote, because this news, as you can see, it came more than a week ago. I first wanted to try the patch and then talk about it, and also the second thing is that we're gonna talk about the hotfix that just came out yesterday. Before we go into the hotfixes, so like they adjusted a few things in these patch notes, and here are like the full patch notes. So that was like my previous video about the PTR. These are the patch notes that went live, and these are adjustments that were made yesterday. So let's talk about these patch notes first, because I didn't want to make a video. I wanted to first try these before really talking about them, and I kind of formed an opinion very quickly, and I was hoping for a hotfix, and we finally got it. Let's talk about this patch. So, what went actually through? Like, what is the difference between this patch and the last video? Well, the main difference is this: ghost supply reduction from 3 to 2, and ghosts are now light tech. And also they adjusted a few things over here, like they gave proper numbers for the storm. They made the radius slightly worse and reduced the range of it, but it's still very powerful. Anyways, let's start with Zerg. This video is mainly about TVP because Zerg, honestly, I don't know yet. I haven't really played too many TVZs yet. You know, that's always the problem. If you're a pro gamer in Europe, you don't really play a lot of like Zergs or even Terrans. What I think about this is, so let's start with the Spire change. I haven't seen more mutas because of that change. I don't think this is like too impactful. If they really want mutas to become like, let's say, more viable, I think it takes more than like this, right? By the way, leave a comment about your opinion. So like, I'm gonna try and make a point here for like everything. So this, not too impactful. Let's move on. Let's not talk too much about the Spire. Baneling change, I've already played a few games, like I said. It feels strong. The Banelings plus 5 HP again, noticeable. That is still a very tough change. Microbial Shroud, I haven't seen it too much. I think it's hard to use it. It's like one of these things that the Zergs would like to use it, but I guess Fungal is still better. You know what I mean? So I like the idea of like the Dark Swarm in StarCraft 2. I think it's a fun ability. And it works a little bit different because it's like only 50%. It's not like as Imbars and Brood War, right? But maybe that's why it's not used really, because it's like now kind of too weak, quote unquote. Like, we don't really know yet, but it's definitely like not game breaking as of right now. Like as of right now, when I play against Zerg, with how like the dynamic goes in game, you don't really see it a lot. It's like very hard for the Zerg to use it, because you can only get it later on in the game. And later on in the game, the Terran has like ghosts and tanks, and like this ability is only really good against Marines, like high DPS units. It's not very good against like the ghost. And Zerg has many options these days. Like they can go Hydroling Baneling, for example. And if they go Hydroling Baneling, I don't really see much point in getting Infestus. So right now, I mean, I haven't played against top tier Zergs yet, but they haven't really figured it out yet. I still think it's going to be a good ability to use, and I think it might be extremely powerful. Like, I think we still have to wait. For now, I can say a lot of Zergs just don't really use it. I don't think it's like game breaking. I think it's a fun tool, but I still don't know if it's going to be like useful or useless in the end. Like, for example, if Fungal is just better. By the way, we don't talk about ZVP here. I'm a Terran expert, let's say, so we're talking primarily about TVZ. And PVT, I don't know what this is like for PVZ. I don't think it's too impactful in PVZ either, though, because Protoss doesn't have many like high DPS units, except like carriers, I guess, or like Colossus or something, which you don't really see a lot against Zerg. So, and like before, the Microbial Shroud was not used against carriers either, when it reduced like 50% of the air damage, right? It was something like that. So yeah, let's move on to the Protoss changes. So energy recharge, yeah, nice change, still nice change. Mothership, you don't really see a mothership as a Terran, so whatever. And now the interesting part. So this is what we're gonna talk about a lot. And like I said, I played games. Like I'm not like theory crafting. I literally played for a week now on this patch. And like, one of the reasons I did not make the video until now is actually very simple. Storm is busted. Like, the way they did it here, it's just way too powerful. It's not necessarily game breaking, because Storm is like a late game thing, you know, like Storm is not like, or a mid game thing. It's not like the Stalkers imba, like Blink Stalkers are imba and you see it like every game. No, like Storm is too powerful, but Storm, like, how much impact does like Storm have in the game? Of course, in specific scenarios when like the Protoss is like pushing you and they're zoning you out, like that's when it's overpowered. But like Storm alone doesn't win you games. So if like an ability like this is imba, it doesn't mean like that Protoss is now winning every TVP. No, like I was still winning, but man, like this is a crazy change. So you can see the numbers here. It's like a 15% decrease or whatever. I didn't do the math. It's like 80% increase in area. The range is not too impactful because the radius improved. So technically this is an 0.5 range nerf, which is not a lot. It's somewhat noticeable, so that's nice. But like the damage is practically the same. The area is like way more. And the damage and duration is way more as well in total. So like this Storm was completely busted. Like I said, not necessarily game breaking because just Storms alone are not gonna win you the game. It's like in specific scenarios that this Storm was like unbeatable. You know, like in very specific scenarios. You see players like Clem struggle with it. In case you watch some of the tournaments, you actually see even like Clem struggling against it. Of course, against players like MaxFax's Hero, it's not like he's suddenly losing to players like way below him or whatever. Like I said, it's not necessarily gonna make Protoss win every PvT, but there are like certain games where you just get stormed in your face and there's nothing you can do and it's silly. By the way, this Storm is also extremely good against mech. So like things like mech or whatever are like so much worse. Like we're gonna talk about it more when we go into the hotfixes because that got changed. Dark Templars, I don't really notice the difference. In late game they don't really use Dark Templars as much and I don't really see the difference between this and before, honestly. And now we talk about a controversial topic here, the Observer change. I don't know how it is in my community here on YouTube, but I feel like on YouTube a lot, and now I'm gonna like roast a little bit the YouTube viewers. But let's say there are like some very passionate YouTube viewers, and like they really like talking about this. I like these kind of videos as well. Like leave your comment here, discuss. I'm gonna answer some. That's how I usually do it. Whenever I have time, I'm gonna eventually answer some or like or whatever what I see. A lot of people don't like the Observer change, and I think that's because they are F2 users. I'm just gonna throw that out. I love this change. Like, you know how big the increase is here in the vision for the Observer? Like, the Observer can like see a lot if it's in the surveillance mode. So basically, 15 range vision. Like, I saw some games where like Protoss would have like, for example, think about it like this. Actually, let's test it in the unit tester. Let's go into the unit tester and I'm gonna show you something where this change might be good for you. But obviously, I think before we go into the unit tester, I think this is a good change because Protoss is like, it's kind of stupid that they get rewarded for using F2, you know what I mean? So they can just put it in that mode and it has more vision and it doesn't get F2'd. And a lot of tosses like quote unquote abuse that. Protoss is the easiest race, and like this just makes sense that the Observer should be like, it shouldn't have that mode in the first place, you know? So like that mode is like a bonus, I feel like. It shouldn't even have that like siege mode. I mean, an Overseer has that as well. I can see the point, but like I just don't like the idea of like making the easiest race even easier, and I can tell you a lot of tosses like sort of abuse that. But yeah, I'm gonna show you now in the unit tester exactly why it's not even that bad for TOS. Hello guys, this is Gabe from the unit tester. Let's talk about the Observer. So the Observer got buffed in the siege mode because it has more vision, and it got nerfed because it's like visible. But do you even like know how big like 15 range is? Like take a look at this. We have the Observer here alone. and I siege it up. So like this is the normal vision, it goes until here, and then we siege it up, and it goes until here. Like that is quite the range, isn't it? Like this is like the difference. Like this little box here. So that is a huge range, and now I got myself here Mr. Tempest. It has 13 range against anti-air. So with the Observer, before it was like that as well, but now you have like a little bit more freedom. You have like the Observer has 2 more range than the Tempest can see. So you can use it like that, but that's not even the thing I really wanted to talk about. What I really want to talk about is just how big the vision is. And that is especially nice if there are like water mines or something. So like sometimes when the Protoss is like pushing, they can like siege the Observer in their army. And then if they want to push and see water mines or even lurkers, they have a much easier time, I feel like now. Because the Observer vision is like pretty big. And like, if he kills my water mines, I know he has an Observer. So like, the fact that it's like visible doesn't even make that much of a difference. Because I can't kill it either. So like the Observer you can utilize definitely for some nice scouting now. Now I don't want to say it got buffed, but I do think it's a nice change, because if you use that vision, like if you're active with the Observer and you like use the increase, you can actually use it very nicely in the early game against Terran for scouting, for harassing and stuff like that. Like seeing, like looking where an opening is. And of course, later on you can use it against like water mines, like invisible units. So for example, if here were like a bunch of invisible units, or like more like here, I could literally siege the Observer here and I would see invisible units that are here. Like the detection range is insane. Just to double check, because I'm actually not sure if it's the case. Let's put a Dark Templar there before people are gonna roast me in the comment. Like if there's not DT now here. So if I siege the Observer close to the DT, I should be able to see it. Where's the DT? Ah, here's the DT, sorry. So if I siege it up here, yeah. So here's the DT. See? I can like see the Dark Templar from like here. So like the detection radius is obviously also increased, if that makes sense. Like the vision equals like the detection here. So I can literally like spot things from here. Before I could spot the DT from like here, like this. So it's like not the biggest of difference, but like having slightly more range, I would take it, it's nice. Obviously in the end, for a lot of F2 users, it's going to be enough. But yeah, I think this change is actually pretty nice in general. Alright, enough talk about the Observer. Let's move on to the Nova change. So the Disruptor got buffed, which is kind of silly. But when we look at the hotfixes, I think it makes sense. So maybe they kind of planned on pairing that together, I don't know. And Stasis Ward in the end, that makes a lot of sense as well. I mean, it shouldn't last like 3 minutes, so lasting like 1.5 minutes makes a lot of sense. And let's move on to the Terran changes. So tanks cannot be abducted anymore. I haven't really noticed a huge difference yet against Zerg. I don't think it's too impactful. They use a lot of Blinding Claws anyways. Same with the Viking. It's nice, but I haven't really noticed it yet. But I guess because I didn't notice it, it's a good thing because I have some more money. Like Terran needs like more mid-game strength. So in the end, this is a very good change for TVP. Drilling Claws. I mean, what can I say? Useless. It's like, I tried Drilling Claws openings against Protoss because of this change. They burrow faster. But in the end, they can just blink on top of your Medivacs before it arrives. Like, early game toss is like so hard. Like, this like doesn't have an impact. And later on with like Disruptors being buffed, like Water Mines get hard countered by Disruptors. So Water Mines are not a thing against Protoss. Against Zerg it's nice, but at the same time it's kind of necessary to give Water Mines a buff against Zerg when Banelings have +5 HP again. The Banshee upgrade, very fun. I think this is an amazing change. It's just more fun to use. You have like 2 options. And it's not too imba, I would say. It's pretty nice. I like this change. It's a lot of fun, I think. Liberator side range, I didn't really notice a huge difference. Like Liberator still kind of feel mediocre in general, like against Protoss specifically. I guess in the end this was like a good change to prevent like imba Liberator siege positions. So like this is, I guess this is my assumption. this is to reduce like Terrans from just shift clicking liberators and harassing and finding spots like where like a stalker, for example, cannot reach the lib. I mean, it's a good change. Like, it doesn't really have too much impact in the real fights. Good change. Like, I have nothing against it, especially because they have like a bug fix that we talked about before, where like the liberator can siege up easier because it's like it's just more agile. It feels way smoother. And now finally the ghost change. So that's what we haven't talked about yet. And that one is insane for TVZ. Like for TVZ, it's definitely noticeable. I don't know yet what we can really do against Zerg then. This against Protoss actually didn't have much of an impact though. I thought it would have more of an impact against TOS. But against TOS, it's like somewhat fine, especially if we take a look at this. So this just came out yesterday. And here you can see this. Ghost HP increased. And that means against Colossus, they can tank more shots again. And that also means they don't get one-shotted by disruptors. They are 2 supply. They don't get one-shotted by disruptors. That is a very good change for TVP late game. And that is like something we definitely want to see, like a Terran buff for this problematic matchup. The only thing I don't like about this change is how they buff like Terran late game again. When the real problem, in my opinion, is not necessarily Terran late game. I think the real problem is that Terran lacks the early game strength. So a lot of my PvTs, I just fall behind early on against Protoss. And that is like tough. Like I just fall behind from the start. And then I just can't keep up. Like the TOS has more map control. They take more bases than me. They have better tech than me. They have like more better upgrades than me. They have like more units that they just have more of everything. Like after like they take the 3rd base. You know, like Protoss just grows faster than Terran does. And I feel like that's the bigger issue. I don't think we want to like for TVZ this is necessary. But I don't necessarily think we want to like focus. Like I wouldn't focus on the late game. I feel like if you focus on the late game, it makes the game still hard for like players at like the mid range, semi-pros, like pros like myself. And I feel like you're only really gonna notice this difference when you watch like someone like Clem, who's like extremely good in late game, or Maru. Like I feel like these like specific late game changes, they favor more like these top level Terrans, because they are very good in late game. Late game is not my specialty. My specialty is more like mid game timings, let's say. So it changed like, I don't know, like Widow Mines being cloaked again after Armory or whatever. That kind of stuff like would potentially be better for me. I still like this. Obviously, like this is a crazy change and actually might make a noticeable difference in TVP like late game and then also mid game. And then of course the Storm change, and that like with this change combined could finally have an impact in the TVP matchup. Still, I don't like the early game, but I mean, if the like mid game / late game gets a lot better through this, then maybe it's playable, you know, maybe it's playable. Of course, we have to do some testing, but obviously Storm deals like instead of 140, 110 damage, and like the DPS goes down even further. So here, what was the DPS originally? So originally the DPS was 26.7 DPS. Then it went to this DPS, and now it's going to 18.3. So that is quite the decrease. It's like 21% decrease or something like that, right? If I did the math correctly on the fly. It's like 21, it's not 20, it's like between 20 and 25%, I'm pretty sure. Tell me in the comments what it is exactly. 26.7 to 18.3. That is a noticeable difference, and that is gonna make a difference. We'll have to see in-game with the ghost change how much of an impact it has, but these are finally positive changes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing some games. I'll keep you up to date We're gonna take a look in-game to see how the Storm works. By the way, the Broodlord changed. I don't really know why that's the case. I guess Broodlords were really good. I don't mind the Broodlord nerf. I always struggle against them, so I don't mind that. But yeah, before we go, let's take a look in-game how the Storm looks like. Alright, let's have a final look at the Storm. Let's do a strength test. So we're gonna aim with some gateway into some bio, and we're gonna see like how powerful the Storm is, like how long it takes for the bio to get destroyed. And this is what the new Storm looks like. Obviously, if I'm standing in it, it's still extremely powerful. Yeah. So like it still deals damage. The DPS reduction doesn't mean it suddenly doesn't deal damage anymore. Nice. Okay, but the bigger thing is why I like it is because Storm is now less punishing. Like, it has more range, so like you can zone out the bio, but it's way less punishing. So what I really like about it is if I get stomped like this and I don't pay attention, I can run away and I can maybe even like save some of my Marines if I'm really sloppy. So that's nice. That's nice for every player. Like, Storm was always extremely punishing, so if you wouldn't pay attention for like a moment, like this bio would now be dead. Or the Marines would at least be dead. So that's one thing I like about it. And the second thing I like about it is that before, like if the TOS had an army like this, so let's say you're playing the early game or early mid game, and you have like a 2 medevac army. Like I have 2 medevacs worth of bio, and like the TOS has like High Templars. Even if I have like a normal army like this, like my first medevac timing, and then there's High Templars standing like this. Now I couldn't stim in and go for them, because he would like storm me and my bio would die, right? But now you can actually punish if the TOS like has like this kind of army. Before they would just storm and you would lose like too much bio. Now you can actually like stim on top of High Templars easier, and it's like less punishing, so you can even make some plays. So even though there's like storm like this, you can kind of just run past it and you don't lose all your bio instantly. You know what I mean? So like, if the Protoss doesn't have like an army and they just have a bunch of High Templars, like it's not like they can just kill all your bios. Like 5 High Templars, they can't just kill infinite bio that easily anymore. Like you would have to stand in the storm for a long time so that your bio like gets destroyed. So yeah, the new Storm, I think it still deals pretty good damage. I think they found a nice little in between. That it's still powerful enough. Like that's, I guess, the idea. We'll see in game if it's really the case. Like this is just Theorycraft. But I like it. It's way less punishing. So even if my bio runs into the Storm, it's not like they all red HP immediately. It lasts a long time, but that's fine. If they want to use it like as a zoning tool, it's fine. So in general, I do like it that way.